Hi,
Hi.
my name is Kenneth, and my pronouns are he and him, and I'm the curator and host of this here reading series, Poetry at the Point. I'm really glad to see actual in the flesh human beings here, swimming through the soup of this atmosphere to get to this venue. So thank you for showing up in person tonight. It does mean a lot. I also just have to say, I said this a little bit when I had dinner with the poets ahead of time. So if you know me well, there's only really maybe one thing that I love more than talking about the existential crisis of climate change, and that is Star Wars. And last week, Disney Plus decided to release, not on Wednesday, but on Tuesday, 2 brand new episodes of the brand new show that releases today. So the depths of my love for you are such that I am missing the brand new release of Ahsoka that starts at 8 p.m. So I'm not going to be on my phone watching it, I promise. I'm here with you. So I hope you feel that and see that. All jokes aside, I'm really glad you're here. I'm really excited to be with you and to bring you the poetry of 2 days, both Lesley and Gloria. Couple of announcements per usual. Shout outs as usual to members of the St. Louis Poetry Center. You can become a member at our website, so please check that out. It's super easy to do. You can set it and forget it. It debits out of your account every month. It's a super easy and inexpensive way to support all the work that we do, so please take advantage of that. Shout out to the Missouri Arts Council and the Regional Arts Commission, whose generous support makes this series and lots of other work that we do possible all the time. So thank you to those folks, and also to the Focal Point, to this lovely, cozy, intimate venue, for always keeping the lights on for us. A couple of, 2 quick events I wanted to mention to you. So the sister reading series to Poetry at the Point is Observable, and coming up next month and the month after. It's hard to believe that fall is upon us in the midst of this swimming through the soup atmosphere, but on both September 18th and October 23rd, which are both Mondays, we have a couple of readings going on in the evening. Those will both be on Mondays, I believe, at the High-Low, which is in Grand Center, our actual physical brick and mortar space. Those will also be live streamed, and Aaron and I are both pretty darn sure those are going to be around 7:30. But keep your eyes on our website for more details around those. Those are always absolutely worth it. Housekeeping for those of you human beings actually here in the Focal Point with me. Out there and to the left and then to your right are the restrooms. There's also a water fountain. And I believe we do not have books for sale. Am I correct when I say that? Lesley does. Okay, so those of you in person, please stick around, check us out. And then Gloria has a couple, I'll let her get into the details of that, something to give you as well. So please go see them afterwards. Love to keep you connected to them. If you're watching this on Facebook or on YouTube, hello to you on the internet. Very glad that you're here. If you are checking this out after August 20, is today the 22nd?
Yeah.
If you're looking at this after August 22nd, I'm still glad you're here. I'm still hoping that you'll interact and comment and share so that we can spread the word about this series and for the poetry of these lovely poets. Okay? I think that's all I got. I'm going to stop yapping and bring on the poetry. Lesley Day is the author of Authenticity, a raw collection of poetry that tells the story of the darkest tales and the deepest thoughts. Day has been published in several anthologies, but Authenticity from Inksoul Publishing last year is her first full-length collection. Her forthcoming collection is The Absence of Light and Impact, a woman's story from surviving to living by Inksoul, will be released this year. Day travels throughout Missouri performing her poetry and is the host of Sunday Night Poetry at Spine Bookstore and Cafe in St. Louis over in Benton Park, and Jefferson County Poetry and Open Mic Night at Savannah's Coffee Corral in Peevely, Missouri. Day resides in a small town in Missouri with her 2 young daughters and her 1 little pup kid. Lesley, please, after you.
Thank you so much. Yes, we have to say pup kid. He is my daughter's pup kid, and she's his little mama, and she gets very, very offended if anybody calls him a dog. So that's why we say that. So I'm going to do my best tonight. I'm used to a mic stand, so I'll be flipping some pages, but we're just going to go with it. So like he said, this is my book, Authenticity, which I will be reading most of the poetry out of tonight. And then I will be reading one poem from my upcoming collection, The Absence of Light. This first poem is called Wretched Beautiful. I will never fit your limited ideal of what you expect me to be. I am complicated, to say the least. I am darkness, but I am also bright. Darkness coats my veins and are scorching with burning light. My mind is tangled, a mess of peace. I live in chaotic serenity. Sadness holds hand with joy. They coexist inside of me. I am the fearless who is afraid. I am love that lives with hate. My heart is steel that melts away. I am the vengeance that forgives. I am beauty that's soaked with scars. I am the anger that lives in peace. I am confidence stitched with insecurity. I am the everything that is nothing. I am wretched beautiful. This next one is called She Comes at Night. I have come to the realization that I have an enemy I've come to love, an enemy I miss when she leaves me, an enemy that hides her toxicity under the guise of lust. Her name, insomnia. You know how that saying goes, keep your friends close but your enemies closer? Well, that's how I finally figured it out. You see, insomnia always keeps me close. So close at times it's hard to cope. You know how when you lay your head down on a pillow at night and within minutes you've drifted off to sleep? I lay my head down on a pillow at night and that's when I come awake. I toss, I turn, I'm hot, I'm cold, my foot bounces up, down, up, down, up, down, my legs shift back and forth, and I vaguely remember those commercials. You know, the ones about RLS, and I'm angry. I'm angry I can't find sleep as I stumble through the endless depths of restlessness. But then something changes. Insomnia is beguiling. She knows her way in because she knows what I want. She knows what turns me on. She softly caresses my mind, molding it into something she knows I desire. It becomes a train racing down the tracks into the darkness of the tunnels where my dreams live. The conscious, soul-looking dreams I crave. The ones that come alive in the wake of her existence. She injects their vitality in my veins and watches with fascination as they consume my soul. Isn't it strange that it's the dreamers that rarely sleep? Insomnia plays the friend part well, for when she's in my bed at night, she inspires me and wrenches my most authentic self free. She feeds me a lack of sleep that triggers my creative switch. Clever thoughts I form into lines of poetry. My best work happens when she's lying down beside me. She gives me jolts of energy and fills me with something that seems a whole lot like motivation. She wakens my mind and gives me insights to new perspectives. She's the drug I've come to crave, for I feel the most alive when she's living inside. The problem is, insomnia always overstays her welcome. And just like a drug, eventually she leaves me feeling strung out. Someone once told me a human being could only survive 3 days without sleep. I called them a liar and told them I'd lasted more than a week and never slept a wink. But in that time, I'm riding a high, aware that at some point that high will capsize. The energy starts to taper off, becoming something more like madness. Thoughts are no longer clever and they make less and less sense as the days drag on. My mind is foggy and overworked. I'm drowning as I gasp for sleep. I'm sinking, waiting for unconsciousness to save me. Eventually, unconsciousness will show his face and I'll drift off to sleep. But when I awake, I'll find myself wishing insomnia would come back to see me. All right, so I do get a little dark in my poetry. So we're gonna get a little dark for just a little bit. Well, half of this poem is not dark, but the second half. So, but then I'll bring it back up. I don't like to leave everybody on such a heartbreaking tone. So that'll kind of be the flow of things. So this next one is called Comfortably Alone. There are so many people searching for love, wanting love. They're looking for love with profiles on Match.com, eHarmony, Plenty of Fish, and let's not forget Tinder. Oh wait, I forget. That's just the one they used to fuck. You know, I get it, I guess. Everyone just wants to be loved. When I was young, I wasn't quite like the other girls my age. I was comfortable with my loneliness, comfortable with my solitude. I didn't crave the attention from boys as so many teenage girls do. I never had the thought, oh my God, I want a boyfriend. I need a boyfriend. It wasn't that I was against the concept or repulsed by it. I liked boys just as much as anyone else and even dated a few. I was just more of a, if it happens, then it happens. But if not, I'm perfectly happy being me, all by myself type girl. Isn't it funny how the girl who isn't looking for it is the girl who gets it first? I got mine quite young at only 18. He came to me through the bickering and bantering over the college newsroom that drove the editor nuts, and the seat next to mine in creative writing class and asking for a pen, and the writing of a poem about the girl in the blue vintage coat that he would never let me read, even though I was the girl in that blue vintage coat. It was in the lessons on the proper way to eat hot wings, the breaking into a park at midnight and swinging so high it felt like we may actually touch the sky. It was in the sound of our feet hitting the pavement as we ran, chasing ducks until their wings spread to take flight. It was watching Lost Boys in his college dorms. I thought to myself, who the hell would pick this movie? Would you believe he first kissed me during that terrible movie? I wasn't searching for that love, but it hit me like a crashing wave. That love gave me happiness. That love gave me a home. That love gave me 2 daughters. But now that love is gone. His lungs no longer breathe the oxygen of this world because they're buried in the ground. 3.5 years. That's how long it's been. And where before I couldn't breathe, and I couldn't go 10 minutes without a tear streaming down my face, and most days were spent huddled in a corner as my screams and wails filled the empty space, where all I wanted to do was go to sleep and forget about the reality that had become my life. But sleep had become a scary thing to me. I filled my bed with pillows just to take up all the extra empty space where I would finally fall asleep. It would be filled with horrors worse than my reality when I was awake. I would wake up shaking with ragged breasts and a face wet with tears I didn't know I had been crying. I was simply a mess. But 3.5 years, that's how long it's been. And somewhere between then and now, my breathing became stronger. The tears stopped slipping from my eyes. The empty space was filled with silence or laughter instead. Reality was no longer something I needed escaping from, and sleep had become the mundane necessity that fueled my long days. But with that came the expectations. You see, based on the most common ideologies, the most natural thing for me to do would be to go searching for love, to try to find someone to fill the void they perceive to be in my life. Because if you lose a love, eventually you go and find yourself another. It's just the thing you do. No one seems to understand why I choose to be alone, why I choose to not fill what they believe to be a void. A relationship has never been a necessity in my life because no man completes me. I complete myself. I am comfortable in my loneliness, comfortable in my solitude. I am not looking for love. I am not searching for love. If it happens, then it happens. But if not, I'm perfectly happy being me all by myself. And I know in that poem it refers to a timeline of 3.5 years. That was when I wrote that poem. At this point, it has been 8 years since we lost my husband. All right, so that was just a little entry to the darkness. So this one is called I've Been Here Before. Sitting across from you while you're dressed in matching green, listening to the sound of your voice stringing together a long line of words that doesn't make an ounce of sense. Time, date, time, date. What's your name again? I try to find you, but you don't seem to be home. I've been here before, only it wasn't you, it was him. I've already heard the nonsensical ramblings of a mind that didn't belong. I've seen the vacancy sign flicker in a pair of eyes I no longer recognize. I've been here before, and it strikes a chord inside, one that's connected to the notes of fear and dread. They're deafening as it courses through the blood in my veins. Because you see, I've been here before, and it wasn't exactly here, but it was there. And it wasn't exactly your eyes, your words, your voice wrangling incomprehensible nonsense. It was his. It's all just a little too familiar, though. When I see vacant eyes and hear the voice of nonsense, it makes me remember all too well. You weren't there, but he was. And his hand was wrapped around the stock of the pistol with his index finger resting on the trigger, all connected to the barrel that pressed against my head. And in his other hand, he held the knife that glistened in my line of sight. Now, I know that wasn't you, and I'm not saying that's what I think you'll do, but eyes, looks, words, tone of voice, and the rambles of a mind that is temporarily not your own triggered something inside. I see it flash before my eyes, only this time, he's not the one in my line of sight, it's you. And you may not be using the same mechanics he did, but your intent and action is the same. You want to hurt me, and you coming at me is what flashes before my eyes. No, I'm not so far gone from reality that I think that this is actually happening. I'm aware it's just an illusion caused by something along the lines of PTSD. I'm even able to realize that my thoughts may be irrational. But my body, well, she's a fool. And she thinks the illusion is reality. She trembles with the fear of staring death in the eye. And you see, I know what comes next. Because remember, I've been here before. And what comes next scares me too, because you're someone that I love. I'm still here. Which means he obviously didn't pull that trigger. His eyes flipped the switch from vacancy to occupied. And they saw his wife with the barrel of the pistol pressed to her head. And he saw the hand that was holding the pistol was connected to the arm that was connected to the man that was himself. That's when he walked in the other room and shot himself. I've been here before, and I can't go back there again. All right, so this next one is a newer one that I wrote, kind of writing about a past experience. Sorry guys, I'm struggling with holding this mic. This one's in my journal, so. So this one will be in my upcoming collection. My upcoming collection is called The Absence of Light, and that collection is based on more of my grief journey, whereas authenticity is very much about every authentic part of myself throughout the years. So there's actually poems from the time I was a teenager up until last year. So this one is called Broken Bones of My Home. See me in this brokenness. Look down on me on bended knee, surrounded by the shattered fragments of life. As I raise my eyes, praise isn't what comes from my broken sobs. Tear my throat open raw with the screams of angry pleas. How the hell do you sit back allowing this much damage to become my reality? Body slayed before you, begging this tragedy won't be my story of life, and that you wake the nightmares haunting my dreams. Do you hear the sobs of my desperate soul lying among the broken bones of my home? No longer hidden by walls, piece by piece, they tore them down to the undergrowth of studs, lying exposed and bare to hide the remnants of you left behind. No wife should see white walls painted red by her husband's death ended with her nearby. A gunshot still ringing in her ears. Despondent, joist to no longer protect my weight from gravity as naked eyes look on where his body laid at final breath. Layer after layer ripped from the floor that once held our bare feet. 7 layers deep, stolen to remove the remnants of your seeping blood. Each layer a year, your blood flowed through your veins and pumped your heart to the beat of living. 7 years your heart beat to the beat of my own and was mine to love on this forsaken earth. Carve out every inch of evidence, but you'll never replace the images branded in my mind or erase the memories of happier times. Thank you. So I was trying to think when I wrote that one, and I didn't realize until I just opened it that I just wrote that one on Friday, so that was my first time to read that one. Okay. This next one is called Functional. We're on the upswing a little bit, I promise. Functional. My depression isn't the debilitating kind. I don't lie in bed all day or cry myself to sleep. I don't even dread getting out of bed because I don't dread anything. I don't cut off contact with the world or hide away in my reclusive cave. My depression is functional. I am consistently a functional human being every single day. And a lot of days I'm actually even quite productive. My depression is so functional that sometimes I convince myself it isn't even real. It doesn't actually exist. Not really. Depression is the only thing that makes me out to be a liar. I lie. I lie to myself and I lie to everyone around me. I lie because it's functional and it's something that's easy to mask. But if I were to be honest with you and with myself, I would tell us this. Whatever part inside of me that is the vibrance of who I am, the part that feels passion, happiness, hell, even the part that feels pain, the part of me that craves adventure, thirsts for depth, and has an unyielding lust for life, whatever part that is, it sometimes becomes the vehicle that's driving through a thick cloud of fog. No matter how hard you squint your eyes and adjust your lights, nothing is ever clear. So you drive in what feels like slow motion until you finally break through the wall of fog that has temporarily blocked your view. My depression is the inside of my mind having Kelly green walls that have been muted to sage. I hate sage and beige and anything resembling a muted color. Those colors don't belong on my walls. You know what the colors of my walls are? Like not my figurative walls, my actual real life walls. They have fun names like cantaloupe and cotton candy pink. And I don't remember the cool name my aqua walls have, but they're aqua all the same. And then of course I have my Kelly green. The colors of my actual walls doesn't really matter though, when the figurative walls of my mind are muted sage. My depression is controlled claustrophobia. You know it's there. You recognize its presence. You feel the itch of panic tingle on your skin, but you will yourself to breathe and tell yourself you will be okay. You don't allow yourself to scratch the itch because it will only make it spread. My depression isn't an always. It's more of a sometime. But sometimes can last quite a long time. And when it does, I don't really feel like I'm living. Not real living. Not the living I want to be living. Because the part of me that matters most becomes a foggy, muted version of controlled claustrophobia. But my depression is functional. You don't see it. So therefore, it isn't real. So usually I have tabs and then somebody recommended just having the page numbers in front of me. I'm not liking it as much, you guys. Especially because I forgot to write down this last page number. All right, I found it though. This one is called Quiet in the Spaces. I don't enjoy the rush of life. Not rush as an emotion, but rush as in not enough time. You see, I need time. I need it to savor the quiet moments, the ones found in the spaces between the significance of a day. I want to sit in the car to finish a song. I want to pull over to watch a sunset, to stop and snap a picture of something I find beautiful. I want to lie down in the grass and look up at the sky. Both clouds and stars can captivate my mind. I want to take the long way home. And sometimes I want to drive slower to prolong that destination. I love the significant parts of a day and the excitement that often comes with them. But I find it's the quiet and the spaces that feeds my soul and lets me know that everything will be all right. I have two more. This one is called Love the Split. I love art and music and poetry. I love all things with soul. I love to experience a soul splitting open and bleeding out before my eyes. How the blood of that soul mixes in with the brushstrokes of paint on a canvas. I can hear the droplets in the music, feel the pulsating in the lyrics, and taste the gushing in the lines of poetry. Things without soul are of no interest to me, because a bleeding soul will always be more appealing than some overthought fabrication of a feeling. All right, this last one is called Restless. I love life, and I am happy. In almost every way, I am content. And yet, I am restless. There is a fire burning inside that will not be tamed, a thirst that will not be quenched, screaming thoughts that will not quiet themselves. I am restless, restless for life. Not the life I see everyone living, but the life in my imagination. I'm ready for imagination to become what is real and real to become a memory. I have this overwhelming urge to see things I've never seen, go places I've never gone, and do things I've never done. I want to see the beautiful, but also see the ugly. I want to go where life is easy, but also where life is hard and broken. I want to climb a mountain. I want to sail a boat. I want to dive in the depths of the ocean and jump from a plane as I float through the sky. I want to be a pirate. Can I please? At least for one day? I can't list everything I want to do because I want to do it all. I want adventure. I want experience. I want to be utterly exposed. I want passion, not mere satisfaction. I want to taste life in all of its flavors and choke on the endlessness of everything it has to offer. I am more than what you see. Hell, I am more than what I am. I was created for more than average, so average I will not accept. I'm done with the ordinary. Throw me into the extraordinary. Thank you everyone so much, and thank you so much, Kenneth, for inviting me out to read for you guys tonight.
Awkward microphone pass. I understand. We've all been to readings where the poet is just not good at reading their own poetry, so it's really refreshing to have somebody who actually engages with their own work and doesn't dwell on a overthought fabrication of a feeling. So thank you very much. Really cool. Our second reader this evening, Gloria Day, is a writer and illustrator who is currently based in St. Louis, Missouri, though she spent nearly a decade of her life teaching at the early childhood and elementary school levels. She has continued to grow as a poet and author of self-published children's books over the years. Though most of her work is inspired by her love and respect for children and their perspective, her goal is to spend more time digging into heavier and more complex subjects for adults through poetry. In 2020, she took on the role of full-time caregiver for her mother who was diagnosed with dementia. Fully understanding the responsibility and the ever-evolving challenges of caregiving, her most recent poetry has been shaped by her new role. Gloria, please. Awkward hold of the mic.
It's not awkward until you say the word awkward. All right, it's not awkward though. It's awesome to be here. Good evening. My name is Gloria Day, and yes, really does mean so much. And I'm grateful to be in such a beautiful space, grateful to the focal point for the opportunity, and Poetry at the Point for the opportunity to share some of my poetry with you. But before the poetry, I'd like to start with this. There are some in this room who are very familiar with the art of poetry. You love it, you're inspired by it, it has always drawn you in, you understand it deeply, you speak it fluently. And some of you in this room can't remember the last time that you read a poem. In the past, whenever you interacted with poetry, you held on tight for as long as you could, but you set poetry in its complicated rhythm down and walked away and haven't thought about poetry since. Now, if either of these resonate with you or you're somewhere in between, the one thing that I want you to know is this. The words that will be shared this evening don't mind where you stand. They just want someone to hold them, give them a moment to linger, and eventually speak to a deeper part of you. There are some in this room who have never met me before. You're hearing my name and seeing my face for the first time. We're crossing paths in a unique way for reasons that we may never know. And there are some here tonight who know me well. You're able to say that in some capacity you've seen me grow and evolve over the years. You are most likely aware of the challenging chapter of life that I'm walking through as we speak. You know that although I've taken on many roles in my life and have held different titles, the one that I'm currently carrying is one that I never saw coming. I am a caregiver. I take care of my mother, who, as a result of a dementia diagnosis over 4 years ago, is unable to independently care for herself. They call Alzheimer's and other forms of dementia the long goodbye. It has been a slow and gradual decline, with up days and down days, confusion, mixed up memories, mentally and emotionally draining interactions, and a drastic difference in her physical appearance. A lot has changed since I became my mother's full-time caregiver, but you know what hasn't changed? Her laugh, her smile, her sweet singing voice, her simple two-step when she hears one of her favorite songs, the light in her eyes when family and close friends show up to visit. I want you to know that this is not an easy thing to do tonight. I've written and shared many poems over the years, but these are different. When I share these experiences that I've had with Mom, it feels like I'm walking a fine line between testimony and treason. I have yet to figure out how to share what I'm going through without also feeling like I'm spilling a tray full of my mother's secret suffering. But in my defense, these are also notes of surrender, love letters to the moments that saved me, and a roadmap for those who are just starting out on a path that looks similar to mine. There are some in this room who have never uttered a prayer, and there are some who can't go a day without it. I have become the latter, and through these poems you may be able to see how that came to be. All I know is saying goodbye to my mom, as I once knew her, has been difficult. It definitely drew me closer to God, and I'm grateful for the two main things that he gave me to get through it all: people and poems. Friends, fellow poets, new faces, and family, I hope you enjoy the poems that I've selected to share with you tonight. First, you'll hear poems that were written during the earlier days, poems that were written when I was trying to make sense of the version of Mom that was unfolding. There's some anger and some sadness, but it's real. Then I'll share a few poems inspired by people that I've met along the way that made me feel less alone on this path. Lastly, I'll share poems that I know came from a place beyond me. In the moments that I felt the most exhausted and depleted, God kept filling me with poetry. It was our line of communication. This first poem marks the beginning. This is where I drop you into my world, late summer 2018. It was the first time I knew something was really wrong with Mom. She used to speak in front of groups and at church events all the time. Her notes were extremely organized, and she was always prepared. It really is a moment that I can't unsee and a feeling that I can't erase. This poem is simply called Sunday. At church, Mother was dressed in white, always. At least that's how I remember it. It was her hero's cape. I think she felt powerless without it. Church was her safe space. She could rescue others with her kindness and touch the sky with her devotion. But this particular afternoon, I watched as the wind caught the tail end and sent her spiraling. I sat in the splintered pews only a few feet away. Mom was forgetting, not just how to speak, but also how to read her perfectly crafted notes from the night before. Sunday, how could you? You were the one day that made her feel like she mattered, and now you're letting her down in front of all these people who came here to hear her speak, up high in front of a microphone, as she had done many times before. But that Sunday afternoon, I watched the sunlight from each stained glass window fade into an uncomfortable, dim shadow. She was grasping for complete sentences. I was gasping for air. This was too much, but it confirmed what I knew. Mom, where are you going? Sunday, how could you? Something wasn't right. Something, someone I knew so well was fading. I actually ended up moving to Atlanta not too long after that took place. I think it was my way of running away from what I knew was about to happen. I lived there for about 2 years until I couldn't deny that it was too much for my younger sister to handle while living with Mom and also taking care of her own family. So I returned home, and after being back for about a month or so, I started to feel the loss of life that was finally starting to come together in the city that I had left. My new life was starting to take shape. I tried to make sense of what was happening, but I couldn't. I took a deep breath and did the only thing that I could think of doing. I started to write. This poem is called Back Home. The hillside has crumbled away. Have you sat me down here for a reason? The people I love can't reach me. My laughter is in the next town over. The hillside sounds like it's calling my name. Is there something here I should start building? The whispers I used to follow are lost in the wind. My mind is shifting to other things. The hillside has become lonely. Why have you left no sitting room for my mother? All the decisions are climbing up my neck. My heart is breaking daily. The hillside has crumbled from beneath me. Is this the true definition of flying? Gone are the things that I once called wings. This life is forever changing. So things do change. How and when won't always be up to you, but you've got to do your part. Even if the situation hasn't changed, you have the ability to add something new, something unexpected to each day. And that's what I started to do. I needed to see Mom smile more. I wanted to see her laugh again. I wanted to make new memories that didn't feel so heavy. I wasn't the only one missing my old life. Mom was going through the same thing. I took her for a drive one random Monday evening. I think we both were reminded what hope felt like that day. This poem is called A City Ride at Sunset. Someone once told me to write down each good day, to remember it dearly, to drink it up like fresh water on a summer afternoon, and thank God for every drop. My heart was changing, softening for my mother, and even the condition that made her feel so far away. I was going to love her through this. It was a day like any other, but I stirred her oatmeal with a little more patience. I set her clothes out with a little more care. I spoke with a little more love. The weather, nicer than it had been in days, invited us outside for a drive just before sunset. Our favorites played through the speaker, and I asked her if there was a place that she missed. She pulled together enough words to tell me that she wanted to see the building where she used to work. Her smile nearly burst through the car windows as we drove by. She waved to the old brick building like it was a friend that she hadn't seen in years. I really did love that place, she said. I was just happy to see her visit a memory that she never thought she'd get to touch again. The silver arch carried the sky and remembered our names. It turned golden yellow, and we embraced the cities old and new. It was nice to still have days like that when we could be free. Though the world was still moving and most of her memories had gone away, off into some invisible sky, she would not lose the ones, the memories that God knew she needed the most. So meeting other caregivers changed my perspective so much. I wrote these next poems for caregivers who shared their stories with me. Although things were hard, it showed me how fortunate I was to have a mother who wasn't aggressive or combative. Sometimes people who have dementia will put up a fight when it's time to do everyday tasks like, eating breakfast or even taking a shower. This poem is called It's Only Water. The love I showed up with today is good for you. It never leaves, even in challenging times like these. Water is good for you. Let's wash away whatever fear and confusion you're holding on to today, okay? I'm your daughter. You raised a fighter. I'll hold my stance until you remember that water is good for you. It's hard, but this test is good for us. It's uncomfortable, but this trial is strengthening me. So, shower, get clean, let go, and breathe. It's only water. And don't worry, I will stay until every drop washes away whatever fear you're holding on to. I also met caregivers who were on the other side of where I was currently, those whose parents had passed away. I was able to receive encouragement and guidance from people who made it through the caregiving journey. One person in particular inspired this poem. She's always been so kind to my mother, and she really showed me how what we go through is less about us and more about being able to eventually help someone else who needs to see what it looks like to make it out alive. This poem is called Candle in Hand. She leads the way with a light that once burned her. She walks with grace. Gentle steps are given to those who have had to bear the flickering wax. She remembers that if you move too quickly, the light will be gone. Her words come from knowing the way through endless hallways of exhaustion. Her heart has taken on the shape of understanding. She's on the other side of this, and one day you will be too. A candle has been given to you. You will light paths for others with wisdom you're receiving. You will sing scripture for others in the key of faith. You will walk with others knowing the way through the darkness. When you're going through a tough time, it's hard to remember that you're not the only one. Sometimes taking a look around into the world beyond your own dark surroundings will remind you that you're still doing okay. A friend of mine was navigating a tough and unexpected loss. He was blaming himself for it. And it was so interesting how reaching out to others who are also suffering can fill you up with an internal light that you were certain had gone out for good. I found myself praying for him, and in doing so, I was reminded that people were out there doing the same for me. This poem is called Just So You Know. Prayers are being prayed for you. Words are being collected like wildflowers and uttered under folded hands and tearful eyes. They don't know how you ended up on their hearts. You just did. And they saw so clearly the thing you need that's been hiding beneath your broken bones. These prayers are proof that you're not alone. If I could give you one gift, it would be the sound of your name being whisked across the wind in the palms of your angels. The stars know your name so well, and the heavens hold you close. Prayers are being prayed for you. I know that your tired limbs and aching thoughts make it hard to rest and listen, but honestly, you should hear the sound of your name being carried across the cares of the world and into God's loving arms. There are people praying for you. Somehow they know that your miracle is close. They know that your blessing will break through the darkness. They have spoken your name and wrapped it in a precious amen. They know that your strength will soon rise up again. So these last few poems are a close look at a very personal but powerful shift that I went through. These are the moments when I let go of my way and my plans. I surrendered everything that I thought it meant to be a caregiver and began to just listen and be led by God's voice. There was one night in particular, it didn't seem much different than other nights, but it was one where I saw Mom differently. And what was really happening to her mind. I realized that what she was going through was a battle, and it was much bigger than me. This poem is called Set It All Down. Steps in the darkest part of 4:29 a.m. Her arms are full, carrying a sweater, a pen, a book, and a bar of soap, and she needs none of it. She's looking for a restroom to use, and the one that's only steps from her bedroom has erased itself from existence. Instead, she presses her scared and weighted feet into each tread of the staircase, into the darkest part of the living room, into the downstairs bathroom that I've asked her every night not to use. The light flickers on, and it intrudes the once most hopeful part of my sleep. I meet her in the doorway with her arms full. She needs none of it, absolutely none of it. The dementia tells her that there will always be something she needs that she won't have with her. It took her greatest insecurity of never having enough, never being enough, and it sings it back to her every night in the key of an unsettling lullaby. Set it all down, Mama. You don't need any of it. But she won't. She'll hold on to it forever. She's taken 100 circular steps in a tiny half bathroom. The soap is the water, and the water is the floor, the towel is the toilet, and the light switch is the door. It's okay. We'll take our time, and I'll put it all back in order for her while the rest of the world is quiet. It's just me and Mama walking through the things she knows she should remember, walking through the hardest part of life. We head back upstairs, and I carry it all for her. Her sweater, the pen, the book, the bar of soap, her last little bit of hope. I tuck her back in bed, and I ask for the thing that she's gripping tightly in her hand, something she's holding with care. I have to pull her fingers back, only to find that there's nothing there. Set it all down, Mama. You don't need any of it. But she won't. She'll hold on to it forever. and I realize that I can just no longer help her. So currently things are still difficult, but there's something about releasing the idea that every outcome depends on you. Most caregivers have given all they can, mentally, emotionally, and physically. They're not sure how they continue to show up every day, but they somehow are able to wake up and make it through one more day. I wrote this poem when I learned how to stop carrying the burden of my mom's health. I stopped worrying about how it would all turn out. I gave it over to the one who I believe is actually in control, and it changed everything. This poem is for the caregivers who have lost hope. You can't seem to find a speck of light anywhere in this tunnel. You've got to set down the belief that this burden can only be carried by you. This poem is called Horizon. This may be the hardest, but it is no longer the heaviest. The outcome is this, not the result, but the position. That is how it ends. It all ends up in your hands. It is written that you finish what you begin. A poem's last line typed, a song's last lyric sung, a story's final chapter read. It was finished as soon as I gave it to you. Set upon the horizon, far upon the sea, cast into the hands no longer carried by me. This may be the hardest, but it is no longer the heaviest. All of the decisions, the long day by day, the slow goodbye has become precious clay. How it ends will not matter as much as where it ends. And I thank you, God. This burden has become light only because this burden has become yours. That is how it ends. He takes it, all of it. And there's finally room left to care the way you were meant to. Not as a hero, not as a savior, just a daughter or a son until the gradual goodbye is finally done. Breathe in and let go. Live in the love that you now have the strength to give. Dance in the peace given to you in the song of surrender. The outcome is not the result, but the position. It's in the place. This is how it ends, in his hands, just beyond the horizon. For most of the poems that I've written over the last couple years have been written with caregivers in mind. People will ask how you're doing and offer to help in any way they can. But the hardest thing to come by is some encouragement. Though kind and thoughtful words are always appreciated, there's something about genuine encouragement that comes from the core of understanding. For example, some people are caring for a parent who didn't treat them the best as a child, but now they're caring for that same parent selflessly through their imperfections. It is difficult, but finding those who understand exactly what that feels like is life-saving. This last poem is for any and every caregiver who hears it. Just be confident that everything is going to be all right, even when it doesn't look that way. This is all just part of your path. This poem is called Confident of This. It will change you. Initially, it will burn your hand, pinch your skin, bruise your heart. It will push you out of your comfortable life. It will spin your head and twist your arm. It will ache. Your knees will fall into the floorboards. Your mouth will crumble. Your eyes will shatter. Your heart will ask questions and your thinking will not matter. This is going to change you. Your name will change. Time will become strange, invisible. You are no longer designing life according to your own desire. Your sleep will disappear underneath the answers you thought you needed. You will see old pain in a new light. You will learn to hold up the same body that failed to carry yours, and hold the same heart that broke yours, and hold the hand that rejected yours. It will change you. Your prayers will shift. They will begin to sound like poetry. You will run out of ways to blame others. You will love yourself intentionally. You will hold your breath tightly. You will hear God differently. You will forgive and forgive again. And then you'll let it all go. This is changing you in the most uncomfortable and necessary way. It's long, lonely, and unfair until it becomes personal, protected, and sacred. This is your yielding. This is your falling apart and coming together. This is your life put on hold to never return to what it once was. Spun around, set down, handed over. It's no longer yours. It has become something unimaginable, but deeply and perfectly familiar. What a gift this will become on the other side of it all. In the hands you'll hold and whisper, I know what you're going through. Look around, dear one. This has changed you for the better. So, on behalf of the words that I shared this evening, thank you for holding us. Thank you for giving us a moment to linger, and we hope that we spoke to a deeper part of you. Monday is my 40th birthday. Shout out to my birthday twin in the audience. Monday is my 40th birthday, and all month long I was trying to come up with something special to do because I usually don't do a whole lot for my birthday. It was challenging to figure out how to celebrate a milestone birthday. But I have to say, this is the celebration of life and a moment that I needed. I am so blessed to be here. 40 may not look exactly like I imagined, but being surrounded by people who love and support you, no matter what life looks like, and getting to walk the path that I know is created for me is an incredible gift. Thank you to everyone who showed up tonight. It really does mean a lot. Thank you.
All right. Well, folks, that is our reading for the evening. I'm going to ask you to applaud again for both of our poets. Amazing work this evening. Thank you to both of you very, very much. Our next reading is going to be on September 26th, when our readers will be Danny Boyd and Richard Fisher. It's going to be quite an interesting mix of styles and folks, so I'm really hoping you can make it out. Just a reminder, you'll be able to review tonight's reading after August 22nd. So if you are doing so, glad you came back. If you checked it out again, glad you did it. Again, comment, share, spread the word. We are small but mighty, and you help us become mighty through those shares. So, quick announcement, I'm looking for poets for this here reading series for next year. If you can even say the word 2024 out loud. I saw this guy pointing to that person, so I'm going to have to bother one or both of y'all as I leave. All jokes aside, if you are a poet or if you know a poet, this is, I think, a very kind of low-stakes, friendly, supportive environment. If you have not read before, to do so, or even if you are a very well-established poet, to just kind of continue your practice. So please let me know. I'm happy to connect with you after, or poetry.point@stlouispoetrycenter.org. Thank you again to the poets. Thank you to Erin, always making sure that the technical gears run smoothly. She jumped over a lot of logistical hurdles tonight to make sure that this thing happened. Thank you to you for showing up in person or online and supporting this. Be safe going home. Good night. Enjoy a Star War. I know I will. Take care of each other. Good night.